Welcome to Reb Materi podcast, and this month's theme is finding our healing. Tribute to National Wellness Month. Think about this month. I think about healing and how it incorporates so many different parts. We had a couple guests so far share their insight, and what we, at least from what my experience has been doing those two episodes, that healing can mean many different things to different people. That means it may mean ending a toxic relationship, starting a healthy one. Um, Healing can also mean choosing healthier habits or getting rid of some negative ones. Robert Urich says a healthy outside starts from the inside. When we think about our health, especially when um, when we think about um, healing, we a lot of times we may just think about uh, what is appearing unhealthy. But I do like what Robert Urich says and kind of pushes forward the idea that it's not only are we appearing healthy or are we actually feeling it. Today, I will be sharing my insight when discussing some ways of finding healing, whether it is medical, mental health, or all above. This is just insight from my own context, my own perspective. However, one size doesn't fit all, so I do encourage you to find help if you are struggling, if you, especially in tribute to this month. Um, I encourage those who are listening to, if you're feeling unwell, it's been a while, and it's been a while since you had a checkup, I encourage you to go see a professional to assist you, whether it's a free clinic or a primary doctor you've been avoiding. Please, I encourage you to find and get help. And I know Revive Ministry mostly, well, majority of the times focuses on the mental health portion. So, um, along those lines, as we look at the whole individual, I do encourage those who are feeling that they're in crisis to get and seek professional help. In the United States, 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline. If you don't remember that or you're just struggling, just call for emergency services. 911 is one way to do that in the States. Wherever you are in the world, I do encourage you to find what that may be. So, like I said, I will be sharing my insight, my experiences that may be helpful for those who are struggling. One of the things that I feel may be a barrier for those who uh, may be seeking help but not sure if they want to receive it is vulnerability. A lot of times, Brian Brown says this: say vulnerability is not knowing victory or defeat; it's understanding the necessity of both. So there's a lot of intangible things that are out of our scope of control. But one of the things that a lot of times, well, one of the things that can hold or dis, dissuade someone from getting help, especially medically, is the vulnerability of it all. When you go to the doctor, you're sharing a bit of what's wrong with you, and that idea and that concept, it's very easy for individuals, including myself, to be, well, I have so much going on right now, I don't have time to get better. And it's interesting to say it that way. A lot of times when I'm working in my field, I sometimes ask the question, am I allowed to get better? AJ Reb Materi, I hope I said that right. So many people spend their health gaining wealth and then have to spend their wealth regaining their health. It's it's a it's a reality that, at least from my experience, one of the struggles I used to have was having consistent sleep, especially during the thick of when I was struggling with my mental health issues. I had sleep journals. I would write down how much I slept, and it was kind of discouraging. So, but at the same time, I how can I say, there were many times when I attempted or tried to distract the attention away from it. But the thing about sleep is that you don't really make it up, and you kind of have to. It does affect a lot of it. So when I think about this month and think about tribute to National Wellness Month, about finding our healing, I think sleep is one of the cornerstones when I think about. I do feel, especially if I remember the onset of my mental health issues was part of it was sleep. So if I remember that sleep can be an indicator, both medically and when it comes to mental health, from my experience. Um, Another thing that helps, there's things that are outside of control of our control, but consistency. So um, I tend to, not be like to be very rigid in certain activities, especially if I'm maybe going to maybe I'll go on a trip with my wife. Maybe we'll go to a museum. I don't like to plan every single second. I like the the pliability that I can go here or there. However, when there is something to say about consistency. I could at least share that with sleep. I could share that with positive things that are in my life. Consistency really help in some ways discipline me in some of the more longer attainable goals, and some of that was um, coping skills, at least for me in regards to mental health. I felt the breathing techniques were not working as well, especially in the beginning. I felt it was a waste, and then why wasn't it working better? And I feel like some of these things, just like anything else, takes time, and the actual improvement is hard to notice. I remember with my wife when we talk about languages. I'm afraid to speak. I would say Spanish is hard for me to speak. I understand a little bit much more than I can speak. And when I think about that barrier, when I think about um, um, when I think about how I viewed that, I tried to avoid it, and it hasn't really helped as much as I would. So there's something to the idea of consistency, and I think if we're talking about health, I feel that that's important. The unknown quote says, "Consistency is more important than perfection." I think there's a lot of stress when we think, and even if we're very good at something, um, we have our good days and our bad days, and I feel that unfortunately, no matter if you're at the pinnacle of your health and you're able to do all this activities, unfortunately sometimes life happens. So consistency can also help with, at least for me and my experiences, being consistent and working a problem can be very helpful, especially when it comes to finding our healing. Another thing is knowing when to say no. I think for me, when I think about tribute to National Wellness Month, is some of the most, some of the people who are advocated and are wonderful helps, at least from my context, like being in church settings. Um, there's something to, at least from my experience, it's something that draws someone who's like, for instance, like myself, to want to be around people who have or are struggling with mental health issues. Seeing a better part of my life, I had struggled with mental health issues. However, there's also, from my experience, at least from my context, is that um, there is this risk of not taking care of oneself, but taking care of everyone else. There's a Cypriot proverb that I want to share with you. It says, "When a garden dries out, don't pour water in other gardens." So, maybe wonderful and caring for those around you. People will really value what you say and do. However, at the end of the day, you can only help others if you're helping yourself. And that means finding your healing is not something you do for others, though you can help and assist. But at the end of the day, that rope, that avoiding your own struggles, appearing healthier, is it more important to appear that you're doing well or actually doing well? And then it goes back to the question, are you allowed to get better? And a lot of times each month, actually each year, I go through the months, and I love doing this podcast, and I do appreciate all those who are listening, and I do appreciate those who who have been guests or are going to be guests on the podcast. But each month, I really take a lot of thought of like, what what do I want the focus to be this month? Obviously, I remember in high school and, well, more so in elementary, the presidential fitness something, and it was always um, around this time. Obviously, school started later, but there's at least from my earliest memories, there's the one thing we did all together as little kids. How long can you stretch? How fast can you run? All this stuff. So there's something when I think about each month and what they're trying to remember. In essence, a lot of what I think happens is we forget a lot, or we don't allow ourselves, unfortunately, the avenue to help. You may have the saddest thing is you may have all the tools, may have all the wisdom, but you're helping everyone else except yourself. So this month, like previous months, like I was thinking just like May, for instance. So May is a very important month with tribute to Mental Health Awareness Month, and I have this theme I used this year, and I used last year because I just felt it really hit to the core, and that was remembering our names. There's a lot of shame and when associated with mental health, and a lot of it can be gaps of understanding what it is and how it relates to us. And so I think that when I thought of that, I thought of was the most basic when we think about ourselves and think about self, what identifies us as our names. And a lot of times people start caring about mental health when it impacts them. So remembering our names gives us an ability, an opportunity to remember mental health. In regards to National Wellness Month, I said, when at least I could experience from my time in church, still like as a leader, there's always this searching and finding. Sometimes finding can actually be, or searching can be actually avoiding or finding another alternative. And health can be as simple as what is how is this impacting you? How is your complaint? Whatever it is. Well, I have pain. Oh, what? How is this impacting your daily life? And so for me, I thought finding our healing kind of describes that when it comes to our overall wellness. We are all in some sort of state of finding or accepting or avoiding when it comes to our health. Sometimes we're doing better than other times. Sometimes we're trying to find a solution. Sometimes we're trying to avoid a situation. Sometimes we're just accepting a situation. So it seems like it moves around a lot when it comes to our healing or what it looks like. And I feel like these things are important because they motivate us to actually go and get the help that we need. Whether it's I have a backache, but I'm going to avoid it because I don't have time to do it. And and then putting all your value of being the most equipped or valued worker or available husband, um, available church leader there is, but at the end of the day, you're not sleeping, you're not eating very well, you're having pains everywhere. When is there ever time for you? So I think, when I think about this month, I think about the concept that I just mentioned about how we will save the world and not save ourselves at times, at least from my perspective and my experience. Fred Rogers says it this way: um, there is no normal life that is free of pain. It's the very wrestling with our problems that can be the impetus for our growth. I think, at least, the brief stint I did in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I did like it a lot, was there's some honesty when it comes to whether it's grappling, wrestling, you, and something that I feel was helpful. And when I was when I was in the military, whatever I was focused on, sometimes, at least for me, I do tend to do this for myself. We tried to solve 20 problems, and we have 20 somewhat finished problems. And I think at the core, when I was really struggling at times, it was just finding, how to say, the courage to work on just one problem at a time. And I feel that, especially now with so many options, it can leave at least myself or those who are listening, maybe that family members, you can feel frozen. Like you're hoping to avoid some of these painful hardships. And then we can also overgeneralize situations, our lives. We tend to lean or like to gather around people who think or feel or talk exactly like us. We avoid any discomfort, and it makes us feel safe. It makes us feel comfortable. Um, and we can make a lot of excuses. Now, again, this is just some things I've seen and I've noticed, even within myself. It's not that there's a simple solution, but there is something there when it comes to how things are very things can be very convenient today. Kenneth Cooper says this quote, which I find interesting: "We do not exercise because we grow old. We grow old because we stop exercising." Movement, whatever it is, and we're not comparing in the sense of how fast we are. We're just talking about being active in general. So, um, and I think sometimes when we compare with such people who are doing very exceptionally well physically, it's very it kind of puts people who are struggling or people who are not there yet at an immobilizing state, and it's almost overwhelming the gap they feel they have to get to that, I guess, pinnacle athletic or physical state. And from at least, um, and I feel that immobilization can lead to no action. Um, and that's unfortunately some of the concerns I have when it comes to, I say, our wellness, our daily wellness. I you know I think it was a lot of time. I think it was a quote. I want to say it's Socrates. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I can I can't teach you anything. I can only make you think. And when I think about this month, and how I had different guests share their insight. My hopes are, especially with this podcast, as it kind of evolves and kind of grows and does, is that it helps you start to think. Well, is it working? And one of the most classic things I do to myself is something that keeps reoccurring. I go every single. I'm trying to find a way to make it work. But at the end of the day, I ask myself the tough question, uh, and I look at myself in the mirror and I ask myself, it hasn't worked. So even though I might slightly make a change to the left, to the left, to the left, slightly, I would still say it hasn't worked. So sometimes if you step back, at least from my experience, there may be a third option that you're not considering. An inspiring anonymous quote I came upon. It says, "I am bent but not broken. I'm scarred but not disfigured. I'm sad but not hopeless. I'm tired but not powerless. I'm angry but not bitter. I'm depressed but not giving up." I think a lot of these things have it's a lot about our verbiage and what they mean to me. So if I come back, um, last month was the silent pain tribute to PTSD month, and a lot of the people struggling are coming back from combat. And with that said, with that, when it comes to that, um, is the verbiage, at least the verbiage is going to be very important. So yes, I may be I may be broken. Maybe I lost a limb. Maybe my mobility is an issue. But I'm not. I might be bent. I might be scarred. I might be even I might be all these negative. But there's something about when you read this quote and kind of, I guess the person who actually put this together, there's something about being being intentionally saying that I may be going through something today, but it is not permanently attached to my who I am. So I guess in essence, there's a degree of hope that the person has faced and understands that things are changing. How we approach being present, how we approach mobility when we're limited to how mobile we can be. And there's something about this of not giving up that is inspiring. And for me, it's not so much that I'm saying it's not about this will change the outcome of what the person's limited, but it may change a way of finding what healing may be appropriate. So it for me speaks volumes that unfortunately we are dealt the card we're dealt, and sometimes accidents and tragic things happen, and I don't know why. And when I was in the church leader, there's a lot of questions why bad things happen to good people. Why now? And I don't think anyone could really answer that fully. Um, this podcast is not to proselytize on that, but some of the most tragic news someone can get is a terminal illness, or something that lost a loved one because of that. So, with that being said, when I think about finding healing and this month's theme, I'm really thinking about how we approach the problems that set in front of us. How do we approach them, and having some some examples that may be helpful. And I had two earlier this month, and for me, and it's really understanding and speaking to the point that um, I guess it starts from what I said in the beginning. A healthy outside starts from the inside, but more so, are we being our own barriers to what may be available in front of us? I'm not a doctor. I'm not one who can tell you, will not tell you that one thing will fix you or heal you. But what I will say is that how we see a problem and how we see it as a permanent scar or um, a problem that will never change. Um, it may not change if it's something that is, obviously, you know, but what can change is how you approach it. Is, I guess, my point in essence, and how we approach is definitely something, a type of problem solving, type of searching, a type of finding. Um, as I said earlier, in health, it feels like it's never permanent. We have health now, we may be doing well now, but then, sometimes we get busy and we avoid what may be bad news, or we may not have time. We don't give ourselves enough time to heal. So the most important is avoiding and making people surrounded not feel bad or worried about one who is struggling or maybe having something wrong with them. And that we can give a lot of reasons, especially now in this culture, about how busy we are and how we have so much to do. And you could be a huge component to the health message. You could be going out there helping people, saving people's lives by giving them information that you didn't know. You'd be doctors and nurses helping an individual take control of their health. But one thing I think, at least when I was envisioning this month, was are we able to go around ourselves to get the help we need? Are we allowed to get better, or are we not? One thing I want to share is, and I'll share a brief final thought. If you want something you never had, you must be willing to do something you never done. I feel like going through this, a lot of times, and I could say more so with my mental health, I had to do this several times. Um, those people who are struggling with mental health issues may have the same experience. I'll share. When you first experience mental health issues, a lot of times you want to be understood, and I understood. I understood. I wanted to share it, and I wanted to tell people, tell my close family. Unfortunately, during the time, I wasn't doing so well, and it became more cumbersome for me to tell them. Not only for them, but also for myself. I felt like no one was gonna understand, and it didn't matter the age group. It didn't matter if they were my friends. It didn't matter if they were my close family. And I began to realize one thing, that it wasn't helping. But from one thing, for a long time, I thought this was the thing that was going to make me feel better. And it was focused on how others saw me. But when I realized that when I realized that wasn't helping at all, it may come from good intentions, but at the end of the day, I was a young man that was scared about having a mental illness, and I didn't know how to navigate it. I did not know. And for me, I felt that if other people know, they may help me. But at the end of the day, the decision comes to me. How do I find healing? And, it started by doing things I never had before. And part of that was not share so much. Not like not share, but not rely on others' understanding, but accept it and move forward and find other ways that I can heal. And that journey was complex, to say the least. But I find that, like this quote, if you want something you never had, you must be willing to do something you never done. And that put me in an area where I didn't like doing support groups, like facilitating. And then when I first got out of the military and all that, I felt very bitter. And when later on, when this self discovery, I began to realize that the thing I was trying to avoid was something I really love to do. And it really prompted me to where I am today. And sometimes, like, this quote really is, as much as it's very self explanatory, it really means a lot to me. Final thoughts I would just share is, when it comes to this month, as we remember different themes, when we remember different focuses, take the time for you. Take the time to see how you are doing. And at the end of the day, if everyone likes you and you're just so helpful, but ask yourself, are you allowed to also be or feel better? Are you allowed to heal? And I'm hoping that as you go through finding your healing wherever you're at in the world, wherever you're at in your life or seasons of life, that you start to say yes more often to that question. And I just want to say, and as we switch gears, I just want to say, those who are listening, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I also want to, as we continue onward, and I also want to say thank you to all the guests who have agreed, who are going to be coming on in the next few weeks. Guests who uh, um, who have been repeated guests. I want to thank you also. But the reason I'm taking this moment is because I just want to encourage those who are listening. If you have a story, or you just want to, if you just want to share a story with us, I do encourage you to email us, and we are in different platforms that you can find us if you want to be a guest. But I want to share this to those who are listening, those who are, if you want to be a guest, just reach out. We have different themes, and there's limited space, but I do encourage you to reach out. And I do appreciate my guests, because it's not easy to share these things, to be up here and kind of share to a silent audience per se, but really it's a platform, and this is kind of what I feel inspires me, especially when it comes to whatever portion of health it is. If you are one who has struggled and felt let me just say it this way. One of the hardest things, despite what I said about people understanding what I'm going through, one of the hardest things when you're going through something is not being heard. So at the same time, I encourage those who are who want to share their story that has been helpful for them, and be a part of this journey with Reb Materi podcast as we enter into, as this year flies by, into 2025. I want to extend invitation for you to just check us out. It'll be in the notes. You can just email us. If we don't have space, even immediately or even in this year, we will find space to have um, to have our guests to come on. And honestly, and at the same time, I also want to say that um, if you know anyone, or if you have an idea or just want to, please email us. We always encourage you to get inside. What would you like? Um, if you have any questions or concerns, or more, just anything that you'd like to see, um, or someone that you would like to see on, that's a friend of yours, and you want to refer to our channel, please just email us. Again, I want to say thank you for those who have been listening, those who have been on this podcast, and remember to stay updated. Our website is still kind of always trying to adjust. Sometimes I wish I could get to it more sooner than I do, but remember to stay updated with all things Revive Ministry through the various platforms. ReviveMinistryFL.com is our website. Leaving of this last quote is from John Green. It says, "There is hope even when your brain tells you there isn't."